So I bet a lot of you are having fun with Division 2. I know I am. And I bet you are too. But it seems to be that half of this game isn't explained. I mean, some of you don't know where the stat pages are and where exactly all of these stats come from. And some of you don't know what the pie chart is in the inventory. Which is fine because, you know, it's not explained whatsoever at any given point in the game. So it's kind of confusing and sometimes just needs an explanation. So then, what will I be talking about? Well, I'm going to tell you how to find your stats, I'm going to explain the pie chart in your inventory, I'm then going to go into weapon stats and gear stats, I'm going to then talk about the recalibration table, and I'll sprinkle in a little bit of information about the crafting table, since there's almost no information other than you probably already guessing what it does. At the very end, I'm going to then give you some general tips, such as how to quickly level a little bit faster than your standard 24 fucking hours worth of play. I'll then also talk to you about the Dark Zone and specializations a little bit, and then that'll conclude the video. So if you're into looking for these hunter masks or the ivory keys, go to another video. This is definitely not going to cover any of that. So let's kick things off. Where are your stats? So if you go to inventory and hit E, R1 or RB if you're on console, and you see on the right hand side there's a tab at the top that says gear weapon talents or gear talents. If you scroll down on that side, and if you keep going down, you will eventually come across 4 smaller tabs with a bunch of fucking numbers. They are all of your stats right there. They are your current stats that are applied to your agent's gear. So these are important, especially when it comes to endgame with how you want to play your character. So what does this pie chart mean? Well, it's represented into 3 different sections for a good reason. The red section represents all of your offensive stats, the blue section representing all of your defensive stats, and the yellow section representing all of your skill stats. So, now that you know where to find the stats and what the pie chart means, I'm going to offer you a challenge. I want you to build your own build. I want you to be creative with it. I want you to find something that you enjoy playing and fucking make it stride. It will 100% work in PvE, but it may or may not work in PvP. But if you don't care about PvP, then fuck it. Just build what you want and have a ton of fun with it. So I just want to make another quick side note before I move on to weapon and gear stats. As someone who played the Division 1, this baffled me when I found out actually what this does. And what I'm talking about is skill power. Now, if you've never played the Division 1, the way skill power worked in that game, which was called electronics, was that the more electronics you had, the harder your ability scaled and the more shit you could do in terms of, like, you could heal your allies for a ton of health, you could deal a lot of damage with your turrets and your seeker mines, etc, etc. But that's not how that works in this game. So the way it works is you have more skill power and then you unlock the mods in order to equip them on your skills, on all of your abilities, and that's how it is. That's basically all it is. It's not when I look at it and think about it, it's not super complicated. So the issue is that a lot of people say that the skill power requirements are very high to obtain, which is true because some of them have 8,500 skill power required in order to activate. But the thing is that with a fully focused skill power build, you can easily make 7,500 skill power. Very easily. And I don't think that's that much of a challenge either, but it will take a lot of time to grind because some of the stats on this forward skill power can be very hard to find. So now that that's out of the way, let's move on to weapon stats. So weapon stats in general, yeah, they're on the right hand side on the panel when you click on them, but I bet you $5 that a lot of you don't even care about what half of the stats do. You just look at the damage stat and think, oh yeah, that's got more damage. Yeah, I'll have that equipped, thank you. But there are some actual meanings behind half of the stats, and I really do recommend that you do look over quite a few of them. But there's a couple of things that may be overlooked that are actually super important. Like, for example, did you know that each weapon type has a stat for itself? So while these are being displayed, I need to quickly mention as well that sidearms are the only weapon types that actually don't have stats. But these stats are important because these help towards your build. These, to a degree, give you some sort of indication of what you should be building. I think the only one, there's two that actually don't make sense, and that's the shotgun and the LMG. The LMG makes a little bit more sense, but no. Just shotgun is absolutely no. Why is there no, I don't even know what stat to say, but there's plenty of stats out there that could literally benefit shotguns, and, you know, melee damage is definitely not one of them. So alongside all of this, you can, I'm assuming you already know that you can mod your weapons, and if you don't know, that's also fine. If you highlight a weapon and hit F, you'll be able to bring up a closer inspection of your weapon, but you'll also start to select mods. I only want to briefly mention this because you can craft the mods once and you'll have them forever. The stats will not change whatsoever. So this is handy in terms of just improving the gun itself just by equipping mods. I would highly recommend, and like, it's almost just a staple. You need to be modding almost everything that you can get. Like, just straight up mod it. If you enjoy using it, put mods on it. Just do it. You know, just do it. So, just before we move on to gear stats, I want to quickly mention for all of the newer players, and I want to quickly explain what min-maxing is. So when someone talks to you and they say, hey, I've got a min-max crit build, it basically means that they've given up on even adding anything in any other stat, but they've got all of their stats in crit chance and crit damage. Think of it like this. You basically are sacrificing everything, which is the min part, to gain maximum value in a specific stat, which is maxing, right? So when someone says they're min-maxing, you're thinking, oh, okay, so they're fucking everything else, but except for this one or two stats. So that's what min-maxing is. But let's talk about gear stats now. There are two parts to every single piece of equipable gear that you need to know about. Its attributes, which I mentioned back in the pie chart section, and brand sets. So I'll only talk about attributes for a little bit here because they're very straightforward, and I do bring them up again in when I talk about the Recalibration Station, because they are more important there than they are just straight up understanding how they are. But basically, whenever you look at a attribute, think of it as like a bonus on already stats that this item gives you. And this can come into, obviously, the one of the three sections. It can come onto an offensive stat, a defensive stat, or a skill stat. And that's one part of, that's just one part of why they are there. It's useful to know what exactly those stats are, but it's more important when it comes to the Recalibration Station, which I'll talk about right after this. So, I'll talk about brand sets now, because brand sets play a ginormous role in your build, right? Because brand sets give you a certain amount of extra stats dependent on how many of the same brand type you are wearing. Think of it like an IRL clothing brand, but they give you stats. So, the whole point behind it is the more you wear, the more stats they offer, depending on the brand. Like, for instance, Arialdi, I'm pretty sure that's how you say it, Arialdi Holdings, you get basically everything you want for a sniper rifle. For a marksman rifle and rifles, you get accuracy, you get headshot damage, and then you get marksman rifle damage. That is so handy, especially for someone like me, who enjoys using the sniper rifle and an SMG. Because I can take advantage of the accuracy on both weapons, I can take advantage of the headshot damage on both weapons, but the marksman rifle damage is only applied to, obviously, the marksman rifle, but that's still a nice little buff. These are important because when you want to build something that, you know, when you want to create your own build, you have to take into account these brand settings. Because when you have a brand that doesn't match what you want, let's say, for instance, right, you are wanting to do a full damage build, which would also be called being a glass cannon. If you are focusing on all of your offensive stats, then you want brand sets that match offensive stats. You have a few brand sets that are straight up defensive and straight up skill power, but some of them are a bit mixed, which is confusing, but You know, they are there, they do exist. So it is very important you look at those and think, okay, well, I'm building to be a glass cannon. I want these brands instead of these brands. But to keep in mind, right? It's important that you keep in mind that some of the brands actually have good one-piece bonuses, which basically means that if you only equip one of the brand set, that you'll get that initial bonus, and some of them are very, very good. You just need to keep an eye on them. It's not super important so long as you understand that they are there, they do exist, and they do offer quite nice buffs if you are looking for a specific stat or looking to build a specific way. And honestly, they are very, very good. Some of them are very, very good. But yeah, just keep that in the back of your mind whenever you are starting to build your own build. So now that we're done talking about stats across the board, let's talk about the recalibration table. Now, remember how I said attributes become super important here? I'll explain exactly why they're super important in just a moment, but this is where you will spend most of your time when you are coming down to min-maxing builds and everything like that. This is where you can move stats over from other items and other pieces that you have onto your favorite items. This is really important to know because then you can really fine-tune your build. You need to think of it like that. This is the place where you fine-tune your build. However, that being said, this is a really, in my opinion, really shit recalibration table. And I'll explain why. Because for starters, right, you can only move a stat from a chess piece onto another chess piece. You cannot move a stat that's on a glove onto a chess piece. It has to be the same gear type. Now, that's not really why it sucks. It's a small reason why it sucks, because, I mean, like, you could have a mask that has a really, really good version of a stat that you want on a chess piece, but you won't be able to move it over, which, you know, is balls. So, why does it really, really suck? Well, it really, really sucks because you can recalibrate as many times as you want, but the first time you do it, you can only mix... You can only recalibrate one stat on one item. That's it, right? Every time you want to go and recalibrate that same item, it costs more, and you can only recalibrate the stat that you recalibrated the first time. So, like, say for instance, right? In this example, I have a mask that hasn't been recalibrated before, and you can see the cost in the bottom corner. It's a little bit expensive, but it's not super expensive. But this other mask has a better variant of a stat that I enjoy using on my mask, which is the damage to elites. Now, I don't know why, but these stats get capped at 17% on this mask. I don't know why, because it's only got 2 stats on each of the masks, and the stats are higher on the other mask. So I don't know why it gets capped, but whatever. I think it's bullshit, but I'll move on, right? So, as you can see, I recalibrate it, and you can see in the box where it says, oh, weapon or gear recalibrated, and then it's got a picture of the red symbol. Now, this means that I can only recalibrate the damage to elite stats on that same mask at any given point, to only that mask, and it will also cost me more, which is... I mean, if you recalibrate more than once, it's fine, I can understand that, but recalibrating the same stat, which is the same thing in Division 1, look, if you're not gonna let me mix and match my stats, let me fucking do that, right? So let me explain what I mean by mix and matching, right? When you recalibrate an item of any sort, right, it has to have the attributes. This is where the attribute comes into play. When you look at the attributes, you know how they have them pictures on the side of them, right next to them, to give you like a quick, oh, okay, that's an offensive stat, defense, yeah, etc., 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 right? If you want to move a stat over, you have to remove a stat of the same type before you can move the initial stat you wanted over. Like, for example, the damage to elite stats could both be the same on 2 different masks, but let's say, for example, that one of the other masks has like headshot damage, and I want damage to elites on this mask that has headshot damage. I can then move that over because they are the same type. However, if a mask had let's say bonus armor and 10% skill cooldown reduction, but I only want the bonus armor and an offensive stat. I can't do that because the stat types are different. That's bullshit. It should be allowed to mix and match. However, it makes sense for everything else to be the way it is, because that's how the majority of the games were, how a majority of it worked in Division 1. But the difference here is that you also don't get rid of the item that had the initial stat that was better that you wanted to put onto the mark. Like, say for instance, like, back to the example that I had showing, right? I had to, in order to get that the extra 3% on damage to elites, I had to delete that item in order to gain the stat and then apply it to the mask. Now, I think the complete removal of an item because of wanting a stat, I think that's stupid. Because you never had to do that in the Division 1. You just rolled for stats. That's how it worked. I think that's absolute bullshit, but, you know, that's how the recalibration station works in this game. It's not fucking fun. It really is not, because you gotta grind and grind and grind and grind, which I know a lot of yous love, but some of yous may not enjoy as much. Because if you're wanting just a specific stat, you've got to go through RNG after RNG after RNG, and then hopefully you get it. So, the reason why I want to mention the crafting station only a little bit here is because you need to level this up. And the reason why I say you need to level up the crafting station is because the crafting station, after you hit level 30, doesn't scale with world tiers. When you hit level 30, you should be able to upgrade your crafting station. And if you can't, what I recommend you do is just start doing a bunch of the side missions that you didn't finish. When you finish the side missions, one of them should give you the ability to upgrade the crafting station. And once that's done, then you can straight up go to the control points, because control points is where you can get a lot of resources really quickly. You can go to your control points, you can then claim all of the resources, and then straight up upgrade it to World Tier 4. And when you upgrade it to that, then everything you craft, except for weapon mods, become 400 to 450 gear score. 400 to 440 gear score, sorry. And this is important because when World Tier 5, which, by the way, was just announced to be released on the 5th of April, which is fucking nice, it becomes more important here because it means that the crafting table then the crafting table scales with your character level, but it sucks because the requirements to upgrade it can be very confusing. So, and a lot of people sometimes won't know where they get them. So if you hit V whilst you're in the crafting station, you can look up the resources and find out where you can look for these resources instead of having to Google. It's all there. But that's all I wanted to mention about the recalibration station and the crafting table. And now I'm just going to move on to general tips. So let's talk about some general tips. For one, this is one thing that I don't think actually a lot of people know about, and it's that side missions scale with level. Now, this is important because when you hit around level 20, main missions sometimes will not get you enough XP, or main missions will give you enough XP to go up one level or so, but it generally is never enough to go up 2 or 3 levels. So you will need to do some of the side missions in order to get to the next level. Now, the exact percentage that it scales by is 33% of your level, which means you only need to do 3 side missions and you level up, which is really nice. But it's very important that you understand that it is better to do these late game, when your character agent is like level, when your agent level's like 18 onwards. These side missions become very, very good for XP, and I wish I knew about this before playing it through the first time, because the first time it took me 20 hours to do it. But this is a nice little neat trick that will definitely speed up the process. The other thing I want to quickly mention is that when you go to the quartermaster and get perks, there is a perk that will give you more experience for doing several things. Like, for instance, you get bonus XP on headshots, bonus XP for surviving, bonus XP for shooting barrels that explode and causing them to kill enemies. You get XP for all of that. But for the first level, you can't unlock that because of the tutorial. It's forcing you to unlock the second weapon slot, which, yada yada yada. But when you hit level, I think if you find enough shade tech, I think it's 5 or 6 pieces of shade tech, you can level this up to its maximum potential, and then it will be little amounts of XP here and there, but overall, this may end up adding up to like a level or 2 for you early game. It would be very, very nice. It's very nifty. But when it comes to late game as well, this perk scales. So it means that you also get your field proficiency caches a lot quicker. Just simply by doing shit. Just by simply killing your enemy. In a creative way, or if you just like shooting them in the fucking head, you've got that. But let me talk about the Dark Zone for a little bit. As of right now, the Dark Zone in Division 2 is not that fun. The only reason why you would go into the Dark Zone in the Division 2 is to level up your Dark Zone level. That's it. Because the Dark Zone, when you go to the base of operations, you have a vendor that will give you Dark Zone perks. And because of these perks, you end up getting 1 or 2 free items every day, which is pretty nice, right? It's pretty nice. It saves a little bit of grinding. But just the Dark Zone in general, yeah, some loot can be good, but it's generally never fantastic loot, and it's not worth your time. You could be getting better loot just by doing the daily missions and then control points and all of that other shit. You could be getting so much better loot from those than the Dark Zone. However, Dark Zone PvP, I haven't seen it because every time I walk into the Dark Zone, it's deserted or there's one other person. But if you love PvP, then Dark Zone's a good place to go if you like PvP. But yeah, I just don't think the Dark Zone as it is as good as the Division 1's Dark Zone. And I really do think they should improve on it tremendously, especially when it comes to when World Tier 5 comes out. Especially, it'll have to really improve in order for people to start using it. It's just not as good at the current time. So the other thing I want to quickly mention is specializations. Now, if you haven't hit level 30 and haven't gone to World Tier 1 yet, you probably don't know what specializations there are. So you've got the Demolitionist, the Survivalist, and the Sharpshooter, which respectively have a nade launcher, a crossbow with explosive tips, and a sniper rifle. Now, these represent all of these specializations give you different stats, but they don't stack. And there's 160 points worth of investing into those perks that you will need to do. These can be long and tedious because it is 160 points, and you only can get on a daily average. I think you can get up to 5 just by doing or 5 from doing the challenging, and then I think 3 from doing the hard dailies, and then you get 3 every time you level up. So it can be a long process, but there are ways you can do it quicker. But I will not go into those just because it requires you to have a second character, and for that character to be at level 30 World Tier 1, and it's not. I don't think it's as fun because then you stop your grinding in order to go and specifically max out level. You're not looking for gear or anything like that, and the gear you'll get is shit, so it doesn't matter. The only thing I do want to mention though is that I would avoid the Sharpshooter Specialist if you can. If you enjoy using a sniper rifle, have fun with this sniper rifle because this has a tendency to have a bad hit registration. I have definitely felt this, and it's not fun to play with. It's the only reason why I enjoy using. I would enjoy using the Survivalist crossbow over the Sharpshooter, and that annoys me to say because I love precision. I love precision-based shit, so. It annoys me that I have to either go Demolitionist or Survivalist because I know the sniper rifle doesn't work how it should work. It's got problems where it won't pierce enemy armor where it's supposed to. It won't even do this on red barred enemies, which is the most common type of enemy, right? It won't do this on some enemies. It's just stupid. So the reason why I'm telling you this is because I would almost recommend you go Demolitionist, because when you shoot a grenade launcher and shit explodes, shit happens. You basically just start wiping the board with the enemy, and that's how it should be, right? That's how these specialists should feel. But the sharpshooter doesn't feel like that, and it feels really weird to use. So that's it. I just want to say thanks for tuning in and watching. I hope you guys got all of the information that you needed to get out of this video, so it did its job. And yeah, hopefully your time in the Division 2 is a little bit better and a little bit easier now that you understand these concepts. And yeah, I would like to know what your opinion is on all of the general tip shit, just down below, because I know that the Dark Zone especially and specializations really do play to what people want to feel like playing. But just with this shit that I've seen and shit out of my own experience, it's just that they're both, like, obviously, like I said, the sharpshooter is not fun to play with in my experience, but it could be a ton of fun for everyone else. And then you've got Dark Zone, which is just deserted for me, but it's probably super populated for other people. So I imagine those two really do come down to, you know, your own experience, but hopefully it's not as bad as what I've explained. But yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope that the time in the Division 2 is more fantastic and baller as shit. See ya.